There was a time when San Francisco wasn't just a city, it was a movement, a heartbeat, a dream come alive. In the 1960s, life here wasn't about status or fortune. It was about freedom, creativity, and limitless possibility. The streets pulsed with music, art, rebellion, and hope. Every corner of the city seemed to whisper that a better world was not only possible, it was already happening. For those who lived it, the 60s weren't just the best years in San Francisco's history. They were a once-in-a-lifetime moment when everything felt new, alive, and within reach. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why and maybe even wish you had been there to feel it for yourself. In the 1960s, San Francisco wasn't just part of the counterculture, it was the counterculture. Young people from every corner of America flocked to the city, drawn by the promise of freedom, self-expression, and a radical new way of living. The city became a living experiment, where ideas about art, politics, spirituality, and personal liberation intertwined in ways the world had never seen before. San Francisco wasn't just reacting to change, it was leading it. In coffee houses, parks, and shared flats, a new vision for society was taking shape, one that would leave an indelible mark on the generations that followed. Few moments in history capture the spirit of a place and time like the Summer of Love. In 1967, thousands descended on Haight-Ashbury, transforming it into a vibrant, chaotic, and beautiful epicenter of peace, love, and rebellion. Psychedelic music, colorful fashion, and a deep sense of community filled the streets. For those few magical months, San Francisco became the living, breathing symbol of a generation's dream, a dream of a world built on love instead of fear. In the clubs of San Francisco, a musical revolution was unfolding. Bands like the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, and Janis Joplin didn't just entertain, they defined an era. The city's sound was wild, experimental, and profoundly emotional, blending rock, blues, folk, and psychedelic influences into something completely new. At venues like the Fillmore and Avalon Ballroom, nights stretched endlessly, fueled by soaring guitars, swirling lights, and a sense that every song could change the world. San Francisco's festivals weren't just gatherings, they were awakenings. The Human Be-In at Golden Gate Park in 1967 was a landmark event, blending music, meditation, and political activism into a single, electrifying day. It was here that thousands joined together in a collective call for peace, unity, and spiritual freedom. These moments weren't fleeting. They sparked movements, shifted mindsets, and reminded everyone who was there that they were part of something historic and beautiful. In the 1960s, San Francisco stood as a beacon of inclusivity, welcoming people from every corner of the world. The city's neighborhoods became colorful mosaics of cultures, traditions, and languages, creating a vibrant, dynamic energy that could be felt on every street. It wasn't just tolerance, it was celebration. This rich blend of backgrounds fostered creativity, understanding, and a unique spirit that made San Francisco feel like a microcosm of the world's potential for unity. While Silicon Valley's global dominance would come later, the seeds of the tech revolution were quietly being planted in the 1960s. Visionaries, engineers, and dreamers began gathering in the Bay Area, experimenting with ideas that would eventually change the world. San Francisco was already breathing innovation, offering a fertile ground where imagination and ambition could run wild, laying the foundation for the digital age. Long before it became a foodie capital, San Francisco was already pushing culinary boundaries. The 1960s saw a blossoming of diverse food scenes, from authentic Chinese cuisine in Chinatown to the early rise of vegetarian and organic dining movements. Food wasn't just nourishment, it was expression. The city's restaurants, markets, and cafes reflected its open-minded spirit, offering flavors as bold and diverse as its people. In the 1960s, San Francisco wasn't just a city you lived in, it was a city you fought for. Movements like the free speech movement at UC Berkeley set the tone for a decade defined by activism and social revolution. Students, artists, workers, and everyday citizens took to the streets, demanding civil rights, an end to war, and a voice in the political system. The protests against the Vietnam War grew from passionate rallies into massive gatherings that caught national and international attention. This was a time when political engagement wasn't optional, it was part of daily life. Cafes buzzed with debate, university plazas became stages for speeches, and posters covered the walls of every neighborhood. San Francisco pulsed with a collective energy that refused to accept injustice as inevitable. It was a city alive with purpose, where even the smallest action felt like part of something historic and unstoppable. Long before the world was ready, San Francisco opened its arms to those who had been pushed into the shadows elsewhere. In the early 1960s, brave members of the LGBTQ+ community began organizing, speaking out, and claiming space. Events like the California Hall Dance in 1964, raided by police, but defended fiercely by activists, and clergy became turning points in the fight for visibility and equality. San Francisco wasn't just a safe haven, it was a catalyst for change. Bars, community centers, and activist groups flourished, creating the early framework of what would become one of the strongest LGBTQ+ communities in the world. In a time when being different was dangerous almost everywhere else, San Francisco whispered a radical promise. Here, you could be yourself, and you could be proud. The city's soul was painted in bold strokes of poetry, music, and revolution. San Francisco in the 1960s became a sacred ground for artists and writers who didn't fit the mold of polite society. Figures like Allen Ginsberg, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, and Jack Kerouac found a home in the cafes, bookstores, and smoky apartments of North Beach. Their words were not just creative, they were electric, challenging authority, questioning norms, and searching for deeper truths. Bookstores like City Lights became temples of free thought, offering banned books, radical ideas, and a refuge for curious minds. Art here wasn't about galleries or fame, it was about survival, defiance, and the relentless pursuit of authenticity in a world full of illusion. As the mainstream chased material wealth and suburban conformity, a growing number of young San Franciscans chose a different path. Communes like Struggle Mountain blossomed, where people shared everything: homes, food, dreams in pursuit of a life closer to the earth and to each other. It wasn't always easy or idyllic, but it was honest, and it was revolutionary. Daily life in these communities meant gardening together, raising children collectively, making music, and building systems of support outside of traditional structures. They dared to ask, what if life could be different? What if happiness wasn't something you bought, but something you created with others? In every meal cooked together and every conversation by the fire, San Francisco's communes were quietly writing new definitions of success and family. In the 1960s, San Francisco gave birth to a new kind of media, one that refused to be polished, sanitized, or controlled. Underground newspapers, radical pamphlets, and independent radio stations flourished across the city, offering a raw and uncensored look at the realities of the era. Rolling Stone, founded in 1967 by Jan Wenner and Ralph J. Gleason, emerged as a voice that blended music, politics, and counterculture into one powerful platform. Through alternative media, the youth of San Francisco found a way to express the truths that mainstream outlets ignored. It wasn't just about reporting news, it was about creating a community, sharing visions, and fueling the fires of change. Every printed word and broadcasted message captured the urgency and passion of a generation unwilling to stay silent. In the 1960s, San Francisco was a city where dreams felt within reach, not just for the wealthy, but for anyone willing to chase them. Artists, musicians, students, and free spirits could afford to live in colorful Victorian houses, rent cheap flats in Haight-Ashbury, or share sprawling homes in communal setups. There was room for creativity to breathe. Without the crushing economic pressures that define the city today, young people could spend their days writing poetry, painting murals, playing in bands, or organizing protests without constantly fearing eviction or bankruptcy. San Francisco was not yet a playground for the rich, it was a canvas for the bold. While industry and development raced ahead in much of the country, San Francisco began to hear the quiet, urgent call of the natural world. Early environmental movements took root here, fueled by a growing consciousness about sustainability, conservation, and living in harmony with nature. Activists organized around saving coastal lands, protecting redwoods, and promoting new ways of thinking about humanity's place on the planet. This wasn't just policy, it was a way of life. From backyard gardens in the city to marches for clean air and clean water, San Franciscans in the 60s were among the first to imagine a future where progress meant protecting, not destroying, the earth. Nowhere was the spirit of 1960s San Francisco more alive than in its public spaces. Parks like Golden Gate Park became natural stages for spontaneous concerts, peaceful protests, poetry readings, and joyous gatherings. On any given day, you could stumble upon a folk singer under a tree, a meditation circle on the lawn, or a passionate speech calling for justice. The parks weren't just green spaces, they were arenas of connection and imagination. They offered a place where anyone, regardless of wealth, race, or background, could come together and feel part of something larger. In these vibrant spaces, the city's heart beat loudest, welcoming all who were ready to dream, dance, and demand a better world. Life in San Francisco during the 1960s moved to a different rhythm, one that was slower, freer, and somehow lighter. There was a sense of possibility in the air, a feeling that you could live simply, create fearlessly, and be part of a community that truly believed in building a better world. Stress and constant competition hadn't yet taken over. Dreams felt tangible, not priced out of reach. Today, San Francisco is a very different place. Skyscrapers tower where communes once thrived, and billion-dollar tech companies have replaced the bohemian cafes and bookstores. It's a city of incredible innovation, but also, many would say, a city that has lost a piece of its soul. Has San Francisco evolved for the better, or has it become just another playground for the wealthy? We want to hear from you. Do you think the spirit of the 60s still lives somewhere in the heart of the city? Or has it faded into memory, replaced by a new, faster, and harder reality? Would you have loved to experience San Francisco when dreams seemed bigger and the cost of living smaller? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. Let's keep the spirit of that unforgettable time alive together.